Do you know why Jon Snow was betrayed by the Night's Watch? Just because he led the wildlings through the wall, just because he wanted to gather the power of mankind to fight against the White Walkers. The first to notice was the dire wolf that Jon Snow had grown up with. Davos Seaworth only discovered Jon Snow lying outside the house after hearing the dire wolf's sad roar. There was also the word traitor carved on the wooden board. Although it was unbelievable, Davos Seaworth still ordered people to carry him back to the house. However, it was too late. Jon Snow had been stabbed several times and was no longer breathing. Jon Snow was killed unexpectedly, and several people who supported him will also be in danger. In order to deal with the current emergency, Davos Seaworth asked Eddie to find the dire wolf ghost. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Eddie and his friends were on high alert. They thought it was Jon Snow's enemy. When they opened the door, they saw that it was Melisandre. She believed in the god of light and had been looking for the legendary prince. Melisandre was in disbelief as she looked at Jon Snow's cold body, because she saw Jon Snow in the flames and he did not die, but participated in the final battle with the White Walkers. At this time, Eddie wanted to rush out to avenge Jon Snow, but they could not fight against Alliser Thorne and his men unless they could find other people to help.
Who is gonna help us?
You're not the only ones who owe your lives to Jon Snow.
At this time, Eddie thought of the wildlings. However, Alliser Thorne did not give them much time. Now he was the commander-in-chief of the Night's Watch. Perhaps considering the past relationship, he did not act immediately, but issued a final ultimatum. He asked the people in the house to surrender before sunset. Melisandre sat by the campfire in loneliness. Jon Snow's death shook her determination to follow the Lord of Light. She began to doubt her own power and the future she saw in the flames. Looking at herself in the mirror, Melisandre took off the necklace around her neck. She was still a beautiful witch in the last second, but in the blink of an eye, she turned into a wrinkled old man over 100 years old. As night fell, Thorne and the rebellious Night's Watch began to force Davos Seaworth to surrender. Just as the wooden door was about to be opened, the Black Castle was suddenly attacked and the door was instantly knocked open by a giant. It turned out that Eddie brought the wildlings to support him. Facing an opponent with a huge disparity in strength, the Night's Watch threw away their weapons. Thousands of years of hatred also came to an end today. After the danger was over, Davos Seaworth found Melisandre and hoped that she could use the magic of the Lord of Light to try to resurrect Jon Snow. However, the death of Stannis hit Melisandre hard. She felt that the Lord of Light had never favored her and everything she saw was a lie. In the past, this woman was a disaster and an ominous sign in Davos Seaworth's eyes. Now he needs to encourage Melisandre to believe in her own strength. Finally, under Davos Seaworth's persuasion, Melisandre decided to take a risk and give it a try. She used water to clean the blood on Jon Snow's body and combed his hair. Then she took a deep breath and slowly placed her hands on Jon Snow. As Melisandre chanted the spell, several people in the room held their breath. But Jon Snow, who was lying on the table, did not respond. Melisandre was a little flustered at this time and her hands began to tremble. She tried again and again but failed in the end. She looked at Davos Seaworth helplessly, and at this moment he seemed to have aged hundreds of years. The miracle did not happen, and everyone left the room one after another. Suddenly, the dire wolf seemed to have noticed something. The next moment, Jon Snow was resurrected.